Well, good morning, everyone. And Angus, thank you very much for that very kind introduction, which I didn't mean to walk into the middle of, but hey, it's Saturday morning, so there we are. And thank you all for being here, because it is a Saturday morning, and it's a beautiful Saturday morning. And I was getting ready to come today, and I thought there's so many things that we can do with our families and our community today. And one of the reasons that we have the privilege of being able to do that, of course, is because we live in this incredible province. A province that is growing by leaps and bounds with over 4 million people in it as of last week, where we have a strong economy, where we have confidence in the future. We have the ability to have meetings like this in wonderful post-secondary institutions where we've been able to invest in the infrastructure and the programs that allow us to have the quality of life that we as Albertans have been fortunate enough to be able to grow up with and to have confidence about in terms of how this province can be developed and how we will continue to make decisions that will allow us to move forward. And today is important because it's our second economic. And I'm here to see what you want to tell us about your direction on public policy and the economy. And the two are inextricably tied. And one of the things that was so productive about the first summit was that people understood that you couldn't make economic decisions in isolation. We made decisions about the future of this province, that you were making decisions that would impact families and communities. That you couldn't make decisions around infrastructure investment without understanding that if you didn't invest in infrastructure, you wouldn't have schools. And if you didn't invest in infrastructure, you wouldn't have healthcare. And to make the decisions that we were able to make in the last budget, although it was a very tough budget, were very much informed by the deliberations at the first Economic Summit. We thank you so much for being part of that, and we thank you for being back here today. Because the conversations that we have today will shape the destiny of this province, just as they did 6 months ago when we had our first summit. Now, some people say, why are you having summits? Why are you talking about this? Why are you asking the questions? Because we know that Albertans are thoughtful and passionate about the future of their province. And that each of you in this room today are intimately involved in making decisions that impact how government works, just as we are in making decisions that impact your work. You are family members, you are community members, and you are people that are thinking about what the future of this province needs to be. And it would be arrogant for us to presume that we had all the answers. And not to mention politically, if we didn't do it, we'd be criticized for not doing it. So it's a 50-50 shot, and we think this is the one worth taking. Because there's no doubt that as we move forward and we think about what we've committed to, which is our Building Alberta Plan, that we have been able to connect the issues that matter to Albertans in a way that Albertans can see this makes sense. By investing in families and communities, we enhance quality of life. By living within our means, we ensure that every single taxpayer dollar that's spent is spent wisely and effectively. The work that Doug Horner has led with results-based budgeting isn't only about looking at whether or not existing programs are effective and efficiently paid for, but whether or not they're the right programs. And that dialogue, again, with many of you in this room, is about what we do to ensure that people can connect to programs that matter to them. Whether they're students, whether they're patients in the healthcare system, whether they're vulnerable Albertans that might be getting access to social services, or whether we're talking about the construction of roads. Whatever we need to do to ensure that we are effectively spending taxpayers' dollars, we want to do. Angus talked a little bit about opening new markets, about the incredible resources that we have in this province, and the resources that we want to make sure we can export to the world, which means that we have to tell our story. We have to be proud of who we are. We have to talk about our incredible energy industry, our forestry industry, and our agriculture industry. But not just the way that we've always developed our industry. We need to talk about it in terms of value added. What else can we do with our resources to ensure that as we move forward, we are creating value-added products that make sense for markets in the developing world, whether that be China, India, or Singapore. And we know that we see the greatest success when we have a variety of resources and products to export. And so we will continue to work with you to develop the right approach to using the incredible assets that Albertans have and that Albertans own to get the best market advantage around the world. And part of that value added is working with institutions such as the University of Alberta to make sure that the research and innovation agenda is as strong as it needs to be, and that all of these pieces of work that we invest in as taxpayers come together to provide the best economic success possible. So as we move forward and we look to what Albertans can expect in the next 4 or 5 years, we can refer to things like the PricewaterhouseCoopers report that says that business is confident in Alberta's economy. That doesn't come by accident. We don't get 4 million people coming to the province of Alberta by accident. The reason that people are coming is they have confidence in our future. They know that this is a province where they could raise their family and have a high quality of life. And the reason that we're able to say that as we move forward, we can continue to have confidence in that is because we're taking the time together to decide what that future will be. Now, the first reason we came together, you'll recall at the beginning of this year, was to really deal with some of the circumstances that were coming as a surprise to us. Of course, the $6 billion hit through the bitumen bubble was real. $6 billion, our entire education budget for a year. As we move forward, we can be proud of the decisions that we made as a caucus that Doug Horner led to ensure that we were putting Alberta on a solid fiscal framework to ensure that we could move forward in a sustainable way in the future. We made commitments to Albertans in the last election to work with teachers and to work with doctors to make sure that we were continuing to provide services to Albertans in a way that ensured that those programs could be sustainable. And because of that partnership, we've been able to accomplish that. But as we move forward, even since the bitumen bubble, we know that shocks and surprises are unavoidable. We know that as we think about this summer, that there was tremendous impact because of flooding in Fort McMurray and southern Alberta. And the people that responded to that, community leaders, families, friends, neighbors, Albertans from all over the province, truly understood what a catastrophe this was. So as we move forward and we think through the long-term planning as well as the immediate response, we know that we will continue to invest in the infrastructure that will allow us to rebuild this province in the way that Albertans can expect that to happen. One of the things that's important to us as a government, as I said earlier, is to ensure that we have dialogue. Do you want me to take this off? Okay, just a minute. So Larry just told me that he thought we had some news camera interference, but I probably shouldn't have said that, so. Anyway, one of the things that's important to us, I'm not sure this is working now. It is? Thanks, David. Okay. One of the things, whoa, now it's working. One of the things that's important to us in this dialogue is to ensure that we're having open and frank conversation. And the Fiscal Management Act, which we passed last session, was developed for your feedback. It is a commitment that we affirmed, and it's a commitment that we made in legislation. Because this is how we ensure that we pull our non-renewable resource revenues and put them to work for Albertans for the long term. Every year, we set aside in that act specific amounts of money to save. This is the first time in 25 years that a government has been able to make a commitment and keep a commitment to savings. And in the next 3 years, the Heritage Savings Fund will grow to over $25 billion. Because ever since I got involved in public life, Albertans said to me, we have to keep saving. We need to invest in our future. We need to plan for the future and invest in infrastructure, but make sure that we live within our means and we understand that at the end of the day, what we grew up with was always that safety cushion, which was the Heritage Savings Fund. And so the commitment that we made was to ensure that we continue to grow that fund as we make the decisions that still allow us to build the economy. So it's essential for us here today to hear from you about what that looks like, about how we do that, and perhaps, because we have this discussion so much, why are we doing this? Why are we building the fund? Are we going to build the fund and have it sit in a bank account and collect interest and be very successful? Or are we going to be innovative? And I'll tell you quite frankly, I don't know the answer to that. But I know, as I look around this room, that I've had discussions with many of you who have very good ideas. And so there's no assumption that we make decisions quickly with respect to this, but there is an assumption that we need to talk about this. We need to talk about, again, what we do with our assets to make sure that we're continuing to grow our economy and to build our future. Of course, our population is getting bigger, and our population is also getting older. Our demographics are changing, and we certainly expect increased pressures on essential services like healthcare. It will impact our quality of life. And it will impact the quality of life not just of people who are receiving the services, but of course their children and their grandchildren. It's fundamental to us that we make the right decisions with respect to long-term investments in healthcare to ensure that people in our province are living their lives in dignity and with respect. So raising revenues is obviously one approach, and we're pursuing that. But we're pursuing it by opening new markets and by diversifying our exports. And we're making, as I said before, a concerted effort to save money. Because at the end of the day, thinking about whether or not we need to do things differently is, we believe, the most effective way to build government and programs and community for the future. So as we move forward, we will continue to do what we promised Albertans we would do 17 months ago. We would lead and will lead responsible change. But make no mistake, we have made change. And there are some who are afraid of that. And there are some who prey on the fears of people that are afraid of that. But as we look back over the past 17 months, and we see progress in building schools, in twinning Highway 63, in achieving labor agreements with our teachers, with our doctors, in building new schools, in creating family care clinics, what I'm hearing from Albertans is that they can see how all of these issues are connected. So we can do that work as part of the work that we do as government. Of course, another piece of that work are meetings like today, where we can sit and work with you to determine in the long term what is in the best fiscal interests of this province. Going back again to the principle that economic policy, public policy, and social policy are all part of the same conversation. So I look forward to your discussions. I know it'll be an interesting day. I thank you for being here. And I know that as we move forward over the next month, month and a half, that we'll continue to see very robust dialogue as a result of this meeting. And I thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.